Here, every philosophical concept is presented in such an accessible way that even a 5-year-old child can figure it out. Philosophy, with its many theories and complex terms, can seem intimidating. However, if you remove all this veneer of complexity, there are only two main tasks hidden behind the works of ancient thinkers. The first is to figure out how the world works. The second is to find the best ways to live in it. There are a huge number of philosophical trends, and I will try to talk about most of them in simple and understandable language. This philosophical school originated in ancient Greece thanks to Antisthenes, a disciple of the great Socrates. It is based on the desire for a simple, virtuous life, free from socially imposed rules. It sounds pretty generic, doesn't it? Let's look deeper. Today, the word cynicism often has a negative connotation, but initially, the philosophy of the Cynics was quite different. Her main idea is to live in accordance with nature and not be influenced by social conventions. In this context, nature is not just forests and oceans, but the very essence of human nature with all its impulses and changes. Cynics relied on their instincts and inner understanding of the world rather than on what society dictated. Their main goal is to achieve virtue, but not through external attributes, but through self-sufficiency, reason, and discipline. In fact, the Cynics rejected the desire for money, status, and property, believing that the true value lies not in material goods, but in the person himself. A striking example is the philosopher Cratides from Thebes, who voluntarily renounced wealth, choosing the path of simplicity and virtue. Such an anti-materialistic worldview inevitably made cynics critics of established institutions, including politics and religion. Today, the word cynicism is associated with distrust and a negative attitude towards the world. Perhaps being a cynic is not the most honorable title now, but the original philosophy of cynics was much deeper and more positive. Yes, there were radicals like Diogenes among its followers, but at the heart of this school was the idea of freedom through simplicity. Cynicism had a huge impact on philosophy in general and laid the foundations for teachings such as stoicism, which also emphasizes self-control and harmony with nature. Stoicism is a philosophical doctrine that originated in ancient Greece at the beginning of the 3rd century BC. Its founder, Zeno of Scythia, was inspired by the works of thinkers such as Socrates and formulated the principles that formed the basis of this trend. Like cynicism, Stoicism teaches us to live in harmony with nature and develop self-control. However, the Stoics understood nature more broadly, as the natural order of the universe. You've probably heard the phrase, "everything is in the hands of fate," or "this is the will of the universe." This is the essence of the Stoic idea. There are too many things in the world that we cannot control, and fighting them only prevents us from gaining inner freedom. Stoicism identifies 4 main virtues: wisdom, which is synonymous with common sense; courage, which means fortitude and bravery in difficult moments; justice, which includes honesty and respect for others; and abstinence, that is, self-control and moderation in their desires and actions. At first glance, living by Stoic principles may seem like a daunting task, but there are simple practices that can help. For example, keeping a diary and finding role models who remain calm and confident in the present moment can be important steps towards achieving this state. Nihilism is a philosophy that rejects traditional beliefs and values, leaning towards skepticism about the existence of objective truth or any universal purpose of life. He argues that life has no inherent meaning or value, and that any meaning we attribute to our existence is subjective and constructed in our own minds. Nihilism calls into question the existence of absolute moral truth, believing that the moral values we hold are just constructions of society and our minds. For nihilists, any institution, be it religion, politics, or culture, is based on arbitrary beliefs that have no universal foundation. Nevertheless, such feelings, caused by freedom of thought, can become a source of inspiration and creative transformation. Nihilism encourages us to look deep inside ourselves, which allows us to uncover new aspects of our personality and beliefs that we might never have realized. For example, a person who does not share the nihilistic view may simply notice that the sun is shining and birds are singing, and based on this, conclude that today is a beautiful day. Who would dare to disagree with that? Probably no one. But a nihilist might ask the question, what does beautiful mean? Such questions related to nihilism often find a response in pop culture. Think of Forever 21T, shirts with any kind of lettering. This is an example of a completely nihilistic approach. Optimistic nihilism combines the basic idea of nihilism, that life is devoid of original meaning, with a more inspiring approach. For optimistic nihilists, the lack of innate meaning in life is not a cause for disappointment. On the contrary, it opens up freedom for us, the freedom to define our own goals and create personal meaning. Optimistic nihilism, unlike the more gloomy and isolating approach of classical nihilism, finds inspiration in connection with other people. Instead of dwelling on the meaninglessness of life and retreating into alienation, optimistic nihilists see this as a chance for collective creation, a joint search for meaning and values. In this way, they can build communities united by common aspirations and personal freedom. Absurdism does not see death as something negative, but perceives it as an incentive to live fully and in the present moment, enjoying the process. This approach encourages us to reject despair and instead practice unruly joy in the face of darkness and meaninglessness. Writer Charles Bukowski has created characters who live outside of social norms and pursue their desires without compromise, rebelliously and fearlessly. For Bukowski, writing was not just a craft, but the foundation of his existence and sense of purpose. He didn't have to complete every line, but he found creativity and meaning through the writing process itself. His famous phrase, "Find what you love and let it kill you," reflects his approach to life and art. This search for pleasure and the meaning of life echoes the philosophy of hedonism. Hedonism asserts that pleasure and avoidance of pain are the main driving forces of human existence. The main ideas of this philosophy are focused on maximizing pleasure and minimizing suffering. Buddhism was founded by Siddhartha Gautama, known as the Buddha, more than 2,500 years ago in India. It is a philosophy that helps to understand the nature of suffering and liberation from it. An important part of Buddhism are the Four Noble Truths that reveal the path to liberation from suffering. The Four Noble Truths of Buddhism help to understand the essence of suffering and the way to overcome it. The first truth, dukkha, teaches that suffering is inherent in life, and it is inherent in all existence. All moments, even those that seem happy, are inevitably accompanied by change, illness, aging, and death. The second truth, samudaya, points to the causes of suffering. It's thirst, attachment, and ignorance. We strive for things that don't bring real satisfaction, and we cling to things that can't be held. The third truth, nirodha, says that suffering can be overcome if you get rid of these desires and attachments. Liberation from suffering leads to a state called nirvana, where a person is freed from all attachments and finds inner peace. The fourth truth, magga, reveals the path to the cessation of suffering. This is the Noble Eightfold Path, which is a practical guide for leading a life based on correct attitudes, intentions, speech, actions, life, effort, mindfulness, and concentration. This path allows you to develop wisdom, morality, and discipline, leading to deep understanding and liberation. Karma in Buddhism is not just a concept of fate or punishment, but a concept of cause and effect deeply related to our actions. All our thoughts, words, and actions create certain consequences in the future, both for us and for others. Thus, our karma is the result of our actions, and it can be good or bad depending on how we relate to the world and other beings. Buddhism teaches that our lives are not an accident, but the result of how we interact with the world. The more we strive for virtues, honesty, and caring for others, the more positive consequences we create for ourselves and everyone around us. Buddhists believe in a continuous cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, which is regulated by karma. One of the ways to develop a Buddhist worldview and lifestyle is through meditation. Tao is both the source of all things and the natural order that supports their existence. By understanding the Tao and coordinating our actions with it, we can achieve harmony and balance in life. That might sound a bit abstract, right? However, Taoists apply this principle to real life very specifically. Wu Wei, or non-action, teaches us to act in harmony with the natural course of events. This does not mean that we should do nothing, but it advises us to avoid violence against ourselves and external circumstances, allowing events to develop naturally. You can think of it as trusting your instincts and avoiding what feels alien or inappropriate to your life, whether it's a job, a partner, or even a pair of jeans that you want, but they just don't fit you. Taoism also encourages us to live, think, and act with simplicity. If we complicate our lives, set goals too high, or get hung up on material things, we only get in the way. We've all been in situations where we've been lost in our thoughts or fixated on distant and elusive goals. Taoism teaches you to let go of tight control and open up to spontaneity. Try to bring these ideas into your life to loosen your grip a little and let go. Ultimately, all these philosophies strive for the same thing: happiness and harmony. All of these philosophies emphasize the importance of recognizing the natural world, art and creativity, mindfulness, and reflection. Although they appeared in different parts of the world and from different thinkers, it is easy to see common ideas between them. The good news is that you don't have to follow just one philosophy. Perhaps some of these teachings have found a response in your heart. You can choose the practices and ideas that best suit your life. In the end, that's exactly what these philosophers and spiritual teachers did. They collected the teachings they liked and created something new. So it's time to become your own philosopher and create your own unique philosophy of life.